Hey everyone, Chloe here and welcome back to my feminine channel. And if you are new here, ladies and lurkers and ear hustlers, welcome. So today's very important feminine school video is all about a very common womanhood practice and a womanhood mindset that has been an open secret for decades. And that is the old school come up in hypergamy of the Mrs. Degree. Now, this is a feminine school lesson and a womanhood lesson that from here on out that I personally believe should be taught in your home, and is a lesson from here on out that should be taught generationally, particularly with Black women, as Black women are given a completely different narrative and a completely different cultural message when it comes to getting their education and when it comes to acquiring advanced college degrees. Now, before the I'm so offended keyboard warriors try to put words in my mouth, of course, having an education is important because in many ways, an education can be invaluable in terms of networking and in creating business connections and business opportunities. And of course, having a money-making skill is important in the game of self-preservation. But with that being said, Black women are often the last to know when it comes to the game of womanhood finessing. I have several college degrees. So as a student and as an educated woman, I spent a significant amount of money and time and energy and my fertility years in school. So I thought that it would be a great idea to share with many of my mothers and grandmothers and aunties who are willing to impart this womanhood wisdom to the younger generation of women who are coming up in their families. And this wisdom is also for my younger listeners, some who are as young as 15, some younger. And there are a lot of women who are subscribed to this channel who are very committed, loving mothers of young daughters. And ladies, what is modeled to us and what is taught to us will always matter. And hopefully there will come a day when more Black women can become accustomed to having less struggle love in their lives and can become more accustomed to having more balance and fulfillment in their personal lives, and can become more accustomed to seeing their mothers as provided for wives, as opposed to being engineered to be harshly stripped of their softness, of their vulnerability, and of their priceless femininity, which is absolutely a devastating disaster in many romantic relationships. Now, for those of you who don't know about this open secret, the Mrs. Degree is where a woman is generationally groomed or schooled by her family of origin to seek out a provider husband in college so that she can accomplish her ultimate goal of becoming a provided for traditional stay-at-home wife and mother, or at minimum, a wife who can rest in her motherhood and fully in her feminine when she decides to transition from her career to raising a family. And for the most part, women with the Mrs. Degree mindset are taught and modeled by their mothers how to catch and how to keep a husband. Women who have the Mrs. Degree mindset are what is sometimes jokingly referred to as the double major. And keep in mind that this is a groomed mindset that is groomed into women of other communities very early on. But women with the Mrs. Degree mindset are women who attend college with the goal, and in many cases, the sole purpose of marrying an ambitious, high-value husband, a future leader, or in the words of my mother, a man who is going places. In fact, many smaller universities and smaller colleges to this very day will literally tell their freshman students in orientation that this is where they will meet their future wives and their future husbands. The Mrs. Degree individual is not in college to become an astronaut. She is not in college to become a stressed out or an over-glamorized entrepreneur, nor is she a student who cares about having a high GPA for a master's degree, or medical school, or law school, nor is she committed to the intense intellectual pursuit of academic achievements. In many cases, a C to a B average is more than enough. The woman with the Mrs. Degree mindset is simply there to gain access, and she is basically there to husband spot to what will be, air quotes, having access to the most concentrated pool of ambitious, driven, protector, and provider, marriageable men while she is still in her early 20s. The phenomenon of the Mrs. Degree has always pretty much been generational, common knowledge for many white suburban upper class to affluent communities since the 40s, as this was a time when women were expected to continue on the womanhood tradition of becoming stay-at-home mothers and wives. But the seismic cultural shift on how a woman could use her higher education to liberate herself from being financially tied to a less than worthy man, or to further enhance her independence and or her career ambitions, essentially began to take shape with second wave feminism and the necessary cultural push for gender equality in the workplace and in the women's movement. So at this point in women's history, ladies, the notion of the Mrs. Degree, or of going to college to find a husband, basically became an antiquated and or a shameful idea. And some feathers may be ruffled to hear this, but with the event of the modern women's movement came what I like to call the shaming of women who desired to live a traditional hypergamous life. And ever since then, women have been keeping their hypergamous ambitions and their hypergamous mindsets to themselves by minding the hypergamous business that pays them, because no woman wants to be publicly chided, attacked, or harassed, nor do they want to be publicly ridiculed, often by masculinas and by dusty men, for admitting that they want to be taken care of by a provider man. And according to many aspects of the women's movement, and according to many black women, being provided for or wanting hypergamy is something that a black woman should be ashamed of. Or the really rich trope that being a provider for a woman who desires hypergamy makes them lazy. My grandmother would often talk about the Mrs. Degree all of the time with my mom, so I picked up a few lessons here and there, but it wasn't until I went to NYU for my bachelor's degree that I saw the Mrs. Degree ambition with other races of women in full operation with my own very eyes, as most of my non-black peers were married with babies before the age of 30. But now the year is 2022, and with the resurgence of hypergamous conversations and the ever-growing hypergamous knowledge amongst black women, the Mrs. Degree has once again become a viable mindset solution and or a lifestyle option that many younger black women can now opt into or capitalize off of in the marriage and marketplace game of hypergamy while still in college. For the most part, a college education and a financially rewarding career amongst black women has always been considered to be the economically viable standard and the holy grail of womanhood success. Black women have always been engineered to ride the strong, independent black woman career bus until the wheels fall off. And black women have never, ever been taught the value of femininity as a whole. In fact, after graduating college, all of a sudden, black women are expected to Johnny-come-lately switch gears, and all of a sudden they are expected to flip a relationship switch after years and years of being told to solely focus on their careers. And all of a sudden, black women are expected to have that perfect provider husband after years and years of being discouraged by her family, by the culture, and by her community to treat romantic relationships as an unnecessary option and as an unnecessary afterthought. But no one teaches black women that eventually they will get tired of having to call all the shots, and that they will get tired of wearing a masculine cape. Now, in all fairness, just to give a little background and historical context, black women have always had a historically unique cultural background that is based on historical disenfranchisement, historical dysfunction, marginalization, and erasure. So yes, our history as women is culturally unlike any other woman's history. And that is exactly why I started this channel. And this cultural marginalization is what has made our history as women so unique. And this history explains so much of why there is so much imbalance in our community when it comes to relationship harmony. So black women as a group have had a lot to overcome and have always used in education as a tool for economic progress, self-preservation, and survival. And only now, with the advent of social media, have we had the knowledge and the information and the awareness to learn how to create a more balanced and a more fulfilling womanhood existence that doesn't involve muling, struggle love, or in continuing the pain-riddled legacy of carrying on generational curses. And as a whole, when it comes to Black womanhood, femininity, and hypergamy, Black women have a serious amount of unlearning to do. Because when it comes to higher education degrees, no one ever tells Black women that eventually they will want to share their lives with someone else. No one tells Black women that eventually they will get tired of having to do it all. No one tells Black women that eventually they will get tired of being on their own islands. No one ever tells Black women that the relationship pickings, regardless of race, get slimmer, and that the competition for quality suitors, regardless of race, becomes more intense after 30. And some would argue even younger. No one tells Black women that when you are your own provider, that everyone expects you to be a masculine giver. No one tells Black women about the 15-year window when it comes to optimal fertility. No one teaches Black women that cultivated femininity is a very valuable and a very important relationship asset. And no one tells Black women that eventually they will have a deeper longing for romantic love and family, and that they will have a womanhood longing for someone to care. Instead, Black women are groomed into riding on the status quo bus of being a masculina for life, or they are taught that a romantic relationship with a man should be treated as a downplayed afterthought, like an overripe apple that can now all of a sudden be picked off of a tree. So that is all that I have to say on this for now. The Mrs. Degree mindset is definitely a valuable mindset to have in hypergamy. And now I leave the floor open to all of my wonderful listeners. Ladies, have you ever heard about the double major of the Mrs. Degree? Were you ever taught to take the game of romantic relationships seriously by your family? Or were you raised to believe that marriage and babies could be something that you could just easily turn on much later on in life? And as always, I look forward to reading your amazing responses and your reactions to this video below. And stay tuned for more hypergamous conversations and more feminine school videos to come. And I will catch up with you ladies and lurkers and ear hustlers in the next one.